In 2006, the world nearly lost two of the most beloved faces in Korean entertainment, Min-ho and Jung Il-woo. What started as an ordinary day ended in a tragedy that would forever mark their lives, shaping not only their friendship but the entire course of their careers. Long before fame, red carpets, and global adoration, these two young men were just best friends, chasing dreams together. But on that fateful day, everything changed when a drunk driver crossed into their lane and shattered their world. The accident happened when both were just 19. At that time, Lee Min-ho had yet to make his grand debut, and Jung Il-woo was only beginning to test the waters of acting. They were full of dreams, often talking about the day they'd both be on screen together, maybe even sharing the same project. That day, they were simply heading out for a short trip with two other friends, unaware that in a matter of seconds, life would take a devastating turn. The car they were in was struck head-on by a vehicle driven by a drunk driver who had recklessly swerved into their lane. The impact was catastrophic. The force crushed the front of the car, leaving twisted metal and shattered glass everywhere. One of the passengers died instantly, while another sustained severe injuries. Lee Min-ho and Jung Il-woo were pulled from the wreckage, barely conscious, their lives hanging by a thread. Lee Min-ho's injuries were especially severe. His thigh bone and ankle were fractured, and his knee cartilage was torn. Doctors later revealed that he was in a coma for nearly a month after the accident, fighting to stay alive. His body was so broken that he had to have a metal pin inserted in his leg, a piece that would stay with him for years. For almost a year, he couldn't walk properly. Simple things like standing up, turning over in bed, or even laughing without pain became almost impossible. Jung Il-woo, on the other hand, suffered from a fractured wrist and internal bleeding. Though his physical injuries were not as grave as Lee Min-ho's, the emotional trauma ran deep. Watching his best friend lying motionless in a hospital bed, hooked to machines, and fighting for his life was an image that haunted him for years. The two young men had grown up in the same neighborhood, attended the same schools, and even dreamed of making it big together. That accident became a scar that would forever bond them, something beyond friendship, something like brotherhood born from tragedy. For Lee Min-ho, recovery was painfully slow. He spent months in the hospital, his dreams of acting fading into the background as he struggled to regain his ability to walk. There were moments when he confessed later that he felt hopeless, moments when he thought he might never return to the life he once imagined. It's easy for fans today to see the confident actor, the global star with charisma and charm, but very few remember that the man they admire was once a boy who had to learn to walk all over again. Jung Il-woo visited him constantly during his rehabilitation, always trying to lift his spirits. Sometimes he would crack jokes to distract him from the pain. Other times, he would just sit in silence beside his bed, their unspoken bond stronger than words. They both knew how close they had come to death. In interviews years later, they recalled how that day taught them the fragility of life, that everything could be taken away in a single heartbeat. When Lee Min-ho was finally discharged from the hospital, he had to undergo months of physical therapy. Every step was agony, but he refused to give up. His dream of becoming an actor was the light that kept him going. He once said that the accident made him more determined than ever, that if he survived, it must mean there was still something left for him to do in this world. Jung Il-woo, too, carried the weight of the tragedy in his heart, though he returned to acting sooner. He often said that the accident had completely changed his outlook on life. It gave him a deeper sense of gratitude and empathy, a quiet understanding of pain that would later reflect in his acting. In 2009, when Lee Min-ho rose to fame through Boys Over Flowers, fans saw a confident, dazzling young actor taking the world by storm. But behind that fame was a story of survival, perseverance, and silent pain. Few people knew that beneath the bright smiles and effortless charm was a man who had endured unimaginable suffering and risen above it. The metal pin in his leg, a remnant from the accident, often caused him pain during long shoots. Even when he appeared in action scenes, the old injury would sometimes flare up, reminding him of the day he almost lost everything. Yet, he kept going. His success was not just a result of talent. It was born out of endurance and an unshakable will to live fully despite the scars. Jung Il-woo's rise followed a similar path. He became widely recognized for his role in Unstoppable High Kick and later for his performances in historical dramas. But beyond his fame, he often carried a message of resilience and gratitude. In interviews, he mentioned that the accident made him realize how precious time was, that fame and success mean nothing if you don't have life or health. What makes their story so deeply emotional is not just the tragedy itself, but what they did after. They turned pain into purpose. They transformed trauma into strength. They became living examples of how a near-death experience can awaken a deeper appreciation for every breath, every chance, and every dream. In the years that followed, Lee Min-ho and Jung Il-woo's friendship remained unshaken. Although their schedules became hectic, and their careers sometimes took them in different directions, they never stopped being there for each other. They often spoke warmly about each other in interviews, an unspoken loyalty that fans always noticed. The connection they share isn't just about memories of youth. It's a bond sealed by survival. When Jung Il-woo later suffered from a cerebral aneurysm that threatened his health again, Lee Min-ho was among the first to quietly reach out, offering support. Likewise, when Lee Min-ho went through personal struggles and the demanding challenges of fame, Jung Il-woo was a silent pillar in his life. Their bond went beyond public appearances. It was built on something only the two of them could fully understand. It's almost poetic that two boys who once stared death in the face ended up touching millions of hearts worldwide. Their lives became proof that pain can become power, and tragedy can give birth to gratitude. Every time Lee Min-ho steps in front of the camera, every time Jung Il-woo delivers an emotional scene, you can feel that depth, that quiet intensity born from someone who knows how fragile life truly is. The accident also sparked a conversation in Korea about the dangers of drunk driving. The fact that a young life was lost and two bright talents were nearly taken away highlighted how reckless choices can destroy innocent lives. Both actors have since expressed, directly and indirectly, the importance of road safety and responsibility. Their survival wasn't just luck. It was a second chance that many others never get. Looking back, 2006 wasn't just a year of a terrible accident. It was also the year destiny intervened. If that event hadn't happened, Lee Min-ho might not have developed the same emotional depth that defines his acting today. Jung Il-woo might not have found the quiet strength that shines through his performances. The pain they endured became a silent force that shaped their art. Whenever fans talk about their friendship, there's always a sense of warmth and admiration. It's not just about two handsome celebrities. It's about two souls who walked through fire together and came out stronger. Their bond is a reminder that behind the glitter of fame, there are stories of struggle, survival, and profound humanity. Even today, when Lee Min-ho speaks about that period of his life, he often says it taught him to appreciate every small moment. He said that the accident gave him a new perspective, to live life with sincerity, to value people, and to approach his work with gratitude. Jung Il-woo, too, has said that it changed him forever, making him realize that life is too short for regrets or hatred. There's something incredibly moving about seeing how far they've come since then. The boy who once couldn't walk without pain now commands stages, red carpets, and hearts all over the world. The young man who once sat beside a hospital bed, filled with fear and grief, now brings laughter and light to millions through his performances. Together, they are a living testament to resilience. It's strange how tragedy sometimes becomes a turning point of a life. That 2006 accident was devastating, but also became the seed of something greater, a renewed purpose, a deeper gratitude, and a stronger will. In a way, it carved the path that led both men to become the beloved stars they are today. Whenever fans rewatch old interviews or moment between them, there's an unspoken understanding of what lies beneath their smiles. They are not just actors, they are survivors. Every step Lee Min-ho takes on stage, every smile Jung Il-woo gives during a fan meeting, it all carries traces of that day, of the pain that forged their strength. Years later, when fans look back at that tragic chapter, they don't just see the horror of the accident. They see the triumph that followed. They see two men who refused to give up, who chose life, and who transformed suffering into something beautiful. Their story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always hope waiting to be found. What happened in 2006 will never be forgotten, not by them, and not by the fans who've grown to love them. It's a story that continues to inspire, a story of courage, pain, and rebirth. For every person who has faced despair or loss, their journey reminds us that it's possible to rise again, no matter how broken life feels. Lee Min-ho and Jung Il-woo's lives could have ended that day, but instead, they were given a second chance, and they've spent every moment since proving that life, no matter how fragile, is worth fighting for. Their story isn't just about survival. It's about transformation. It's about finding light after the darkest night. About choosing to live fully when fate has already tried to take everything away. Their friendship remains one of the most beautiful stories in Korean entertainment. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's real. Born from tragedy, built through pain and strengthened by time. Their bond reminds us of the simple truth that life's most powerful connections are often formed in the fires of hardship. The accident that nearly took their lives became the moment that defined them both. And today, as fans watch them shine brighter than ever, they don't just see stars. They see survivors who turn their scars into strength and their pain into purpose. Their story continues to touch hearts, a timeless reminder that even after the worst storms, the sun always finds its way back. As years passed, both Lee Min-ho and Jung Il-woo carried the invisible marks of that terrible night in 2006. They no longer needed to talk about it. Their eyes always told the story. Every success, every award, every curtain call felt like a small victory over the pain that once tried to define them. Life had given them a second chance, and they were determined to live it not just for themselves, but for the friend they lost that day. Sometimes, when Lee Min-ho walks onto a film set, there's a brief silence before the cameras roll, a moment where he closes his eyes, takes a breath, and grounds himself. In that silence lies gratitude. The man who once lay broken on a hospital bed now stands tall, radiating strength and calm. He knows that fame is fleeting, but life is something you fight to keep. Fans see his confidence, his smile, his charm, but few realize the quiet courage that lives behind it. Jung Il-woo often speaks about the importance of living slowly, cherishing moments, and finding peace. His warm demeanor hides the pain he once carried, the fear of losing someone he called a brother. Every role he takes on, every story he tells through acting, carries a piece of his heart, a heart that has known sorrow, loss, and healing. He once said in an interview that surviving that accident was like being reborn, and truly, both of them were. Their friendship remains unshakable. When they meet, even briefly, fans can feel the unspoken bond that time and distance can't erase. They've been through things together that words can't describe. Behind the cameras, they are just two men who understand each other without speaking. Two souls who were granted another sunrise after the darkest night. And maybe that's why fans feel so deeply connected to them. Their story isn't a fairy tale. It's a story of survival, pain, and hope. It's about what it means to fall apart and rebuild yourself stronger than before. Every time Lee Min-ho smiles for a fan or Jung Il-woo greets a crowd, it's a reminder that life's fragility is also its beauty. Even today, when fans look back at that tragic event, they don't see weakness, they see courage. They see how both men turn heartbreak into purpose and suffering into art. Their journey speaks to anyone who has ever lost something or someone, reminding us that healing is not about forgetting, but about finding strength in the memories that remain. If their story moved you, if their journey from pain to purpose inspired something deep in your heart, then join us at Midnight in Seoul, a place where stories like these live on. Subscribe to the channel and be part of a community that celebrates resilience, love, and the untold moments behind the stars we cherish. Because sometimes, the most beautiful stories aren't the ones written in scripts. They're the ones written in survival, in friendship, and in the quiet strength of two souls who refuse to give up. Their story reminds us that life isn't measured by how many times we fall, but by how many times we rise. And for Lee Min-ho and Jung Il-woo, that rise will forever be one of the most moving stories ever told.